Viewers, before diving in, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always wild to see where folks are tuning in from. Now picture this, a quiet Tuesday evening, the kind where the only sound is a husky's paws, shifting on the wood floor, and the crackle of a fireplace older than disco. Peter Collins, soot on his hands, sweat on his brow, kneels before the stone hearth his grandfather built in the 70s. It's not glamorous work. Fixing broken masonry rarely is, but to him this cabin isn't just a roof and walls. It's everything. The last thread tying him to his family, the last tangible piece of legacy after a life that burned him out of law and into the dirt-cheap world of scraping by. That's when the knock comes. Not polite, not the "hey neighbor, can I borrow sugar" kind. This one has tempo, the kind of beat politicians probably practice in front of mirrors. Outside stands a middle-aged woman in a stiff business suit, binder clutched like a holy relic. Her pacing is so sharp it could pass for military drill. Rex Peters' loyal husky growls low ears flat. Instinct says don't open. Politeness drilled into Peter by his late grandfather says do. So he does. And that's when he meets Christina Walsh, HOA president, binder queen, and apparently self-appointed prophet of something called Her Weekend. "Are you Peter Collins?" she demands as if she's confirming a hit list. Before he can answer, she's flipping through her oversized binder, words spilling out in all caps. According to her, his cabin is required for her weekend emergency protocols. Each sentence laced with "her weekend" like it's oxygen. Historians still argue whether bureaucracy or mythology birthed stranger cults, but Christina manages to blend both into a spectacle of binder-flipping zealotry. Peter tries reason. "What exactly is her weekend?" he asks. Big mistake. She lights up like someone offered her a TED Talk slot. Her weekend compliance, her weekend shelter coordination, her weekend authority. The repetition grows like a drumbeat. Peter wonders if she's having some kind of neurological episode, but when she sticks out her hand for his keys, keys carved by his grandfather, keys pressed into his palm with a dying man's last request to protect this place, something in him snaps. "No," he says, "this is my home." The shock on her face is almost comical, like someone just told her gravity doesn't apply on Tuesdays. She shrieks about violations, waves the binder like scripture, but when Peter snatches it, the truth is stranger than parody. Inside blank pages covered in the words, "Her Weekend," scribbled in colored pens, a grown-up's crayon manifesto. His neighbor Thomas wanders over calm as a retired teacher breaking up a cafeteria fight and points out what's obvious. Christina clutches the binder like it's a baby. As she storms off, loose papers scatter. Peter bends to pick them up and freezes. They're invoices, real ones. Payments for her weekend property preparation. The name on them, Brandon Walsh. It's not just delusion. It's orchestrated. Christina isn't merely eccentric. She's organized, financed, and planning. Rex presses against Peter's leg, hackles raised. Thomas mutters, "You just refuse something that's going to cause you trouble." And Peter knows he's right. That simple no hasn't ended anything. It's detonated the first charge in a campaign that feels less like neighborhood squabble and more like the opening act of a siege. The next morning, Peter's coffee tastes like mud, not because he brewed it wrong, but because sleep never came. He paces, laptop glow burning his eyes as he scours every legal database he can find. Nowhere, absolutely nowhere, is there mention of her weekend. No emergency codes, no shelter statutes, not even a footnote in municipal regulations. Desperate people invent rules, sure, but Christina has elevated it into performance art. At precisely 8 a.m., as though waiting in her car for Dawn to flip the open sign on harassment, she's back. This time the binder is thicker. Red Sharpie scrawled across the front. Her weekend legal documentation. She rattles off municipal code gibberish like a malfunctioning Alexa, her voice dripping with faux authority. Peter tries to push back, but then comes Brandon, her nephew, toolbox in hand, looking like he'd rather be at literally any other job. He mutters something about her weekend structural compliance. The poor kid's jaw quivers when asked what that even means. His aunt feeds him lines like a stage mom from hell. Before Peter can blink, Brandon's in the basement. Then comes the hiss of water, then the sound no homeowner wants, rushing destruction. Peter rushes down to find pipes sliced open with bolt cutters. $3,000 worth of damage, and insurance shrugs it off as neglect. It's sabotage dressed up as safety. Somewhere historians still argue whether medieval sieges or modern insurance adjusters inflict more despair, but in this cabin, Peter already has his answer. Christina doesn't stop at property damage. She phones neighbors, weaving a narrative of selfishness and danger. Sweet Mrs. Henderson calls Peter, trembling, asking why he's blocking her weekend shelter access. Peter explains it's nonsense, and she hesitates before revealing Christina asked her weeks ago if her property was available for emergencies. Suddenly the scam feels broader, systematic. How many doors has she knocked? How many binders has she waved like gospel? By Tuesday night, Christina escalates to spectacle. A full emergency HOA meeting, subject line screaming community safety crisis with 14 exclamation points. The community center fills with 30 bewildered residents. Christina strides in like she's chairing the UN PowerPoint slides, flashing made-up charts, binders stacked like bricks of credibility. She drags along a contractor, Marcus Thompson, who parrots her claims with the reluctance of a man under debt. When Peter speaks, he keeps it simple. Who is her? Where's the written policy? What authority created these protocols? Each question slices through her rhetoric. Christina frays. Her voice climbs, hands flailing until she spirals into chanting her weekend over and over, faster and faster, like a broken jukebox. Papers scatter blank, save for the infamous phrase scrawled in red marker. The room goes dead quiet. Even her most loyal supporters glance sideways, embarrassed. And then Brandon breaks. Standing in the back, his girlfriend urging him on, he finally admits what everyone suspects. I don't know what her weekend is. Aunt Christina paid me $500 to make problems so she could fix them. Silence shatters into murmurs, gasps, even laughter. The meeting dissolves in chaos. Christina screeching about eternal weekends, while Marcus slips out the side door. Someone mutters, "Weekends are for video games, not emergencies." Another whispers, "I stopped counting after 47 times." The meltdown doesn't just stay in the room. Peter's live stream, meant as quiet documentation, has ballooned. Thousands are watching, dissecting pipe damage, trading memes, and demanding answers. By the time County Inspector Lopez arrives 2 days later, the internet has already crowned Christina Weekend Karen. He walks the property with clipboard precision, Christina buzzing in his ear like a deranged tour guide. Her binder arguments collapse under his steady questions. Who is her? Show me the municipal code. She sputters. Brandon, cornered, confesses outright to deliberate sabotage. The live stream audience explodes. Hashtags trend. Memes fly. Lopez radios for backup, calling it harassment and fraud. Christina, stripped of credibility, goes nuclear. "Give me her weekend or give me death," she bellows, hurling binders at Lopez's truck. It's chaos, captured in high definition, and the internet devours it like popcorn. By Friday, Christina's binder empire is rubble. Inspector Lopez's report moves fast through county channels, then up to the State Housing Authority. Suddenly, Peter's lonely live stream of harassment is evidence in a formal fraud investigation. Brandon, freed from his aunt's grip and drowning guilt, turns whistleblower. He hands over text messages, bank transfers, and proof of 4 other victims who caved rather than resist. Christina's binder babble is no longer comedy, it's case law in the making. The state's emergency order lands like a hammer. Christina is barred from contacting Peter or anyone she harassed. Her supposed HOA power suspended pending investigation. Insurance, which had smugly called Peter's sabotage neglect, backpedals furiously once the fraud file crosses their desk. A full payout apology letter included. Historians still argue whether corporations feel shame, but this one certainly faked it well enough. The community turns. Those who doubted Peter now bring casseroles and swing hammers. Even Brandon shows up with his toolbox, fixing every pipe he ruined, whispering sorry on a loop. His girlfriend beams at him like watching integrity sprout in real time. The HOA, embarrassed and desperate, votes Christina out. They pass sweeping reforms. Emergency powers now need 67% approval, county oversight, and clear documentation. In the famous Christina clause, any official repeating non-existent policies gets suspended pending psychological review. Christina, though, doesn't fade quietly. Court day arrives. Over 100,000 viewers tune into the live stream expecting fireworks, and they get them. She marches in wearing an orange jumpsuit, clutching a binder scribbled in purple crayon. When Judge Smith demands remorse, she bellows about her weekend constitutional rights, tossing pages like confetti. Give me her weekend or give me death. She screams a phrase that will live online forever. Bailiffs drag her out, still chanting, while the live stream chat explodes into memes, hashtags, and disbelief. The sentence surprises everyone. Probation restitution, 500 hours of service, and mandatory treatment. Brandon gets community service in exchange for cooperation. The real punishment isn't prison, it's silence. Christina is forbidden from uttering her weekend in public or risk jail, a gag order on her own delusion. Somehow that feels like poetic justice, and yet redemption creeps in. Months later, Christina moves to another town, actually engages in therapy, and shockingly helps the FBI bring down a regional scam network. 23 fraudsters arrested, millions recovered. The predator becomes protector, the binder queen turned cautionary tale. Even Peter admits grudgingly that her testimony saved families from the same nightmare. Brandon flourishes, starting a construction business under the motto, "Honest work builds trust." The community, once fractured, becomes a model of transparency, teaching others how to spot and stop scams. Years later, Peter sits on his porch with Rex at his feet and his grandson on his lap, telling him about the fireplace built by great-grandfather's hands. Christina calls sometimes, checking in, asking if any new scams are brewing. Her voice is calmer, steady, almost human. "My weekend now is helping others protect theirs," she says at a property rights conference, earning applause she never dreamed possible. The cabin still stands stronger than ever, surrounded by neighbors who trust each other again. The internet has moved on, but the lesson remains. Delusion thrives when no one asks questions. Authority is only real if people consent to it. And sometimes the strongest word in the world is a simple no. The wind down begins like the slow fade of sunset through pine trees. Peter leans back in his chair, the creak of old wood soft and steady, while Rex sighs into the quiet. The chaos, the shouting, the endless repetition of nonsense all gone now. What lingers instead is stillness, the kind that rolls gently over hills and settles into the bones like a lullaby. Neighbors wave from porches. Children laugh in yards that are truly their own, and no binders filled with scribbles threaten their safety anymore. It is as if the forest itself exhales, returning to its natural rhythm. He thinks of Christina, once consumed by obsession, now reshaped by consequence and care. He thinks of Brandon, who turned debt and shame into integrity and trust. He thinks of his grandson, wide-eyed at stories of courage. And he hopes the boy will grow up believing that standing your ground doesn't have to mean standing alone. Justice, he realizes, isn't always about crushing an enemy. Sometimes it's about guiding them back toward the light, even if that path begins in darkness. The porch grows cooler as the stars take their places one by one in the vast Texas sky. Peter whispers to himself the truth he learned the hard way. Weekends are for rest, not emergencies, and no one can steal your peace unless you hand it over. His eyes close, the fires glow steady behind him, and the story dissolves into quiet, leaving only the comfort of knowing that home, family, and community endure long after the noise fades.